Hey dudes, it's your friend, the Reverend Pirate Frog. Come join me in the circle with my bearded brother, Howlingbuds, the poet laureate himself, Stoney Alpinist, and of course, the better half of Frapple and my friend, Johnny Apple. Pass to the left and let's have some fucking fun.
I have nothing. My shit is so boring right now. It's like I've been.
Tell us all about it as you host this episode.
I am not doing
Thanks for hosting, by the way.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop talking. Come on.
This blueberry OJ really got me tonight. How's it going, everyone? I have a very boring garden right now that is annoying the hell out of me. I only have the night owl going. I have no photos going. I have nothing.
I've already pressed record.
What?
Pressed record. We haven't even done intros.
You haven't introduced
anyone.
You are really stoned. Why did you think tonight was the best night to do this, Howling? Why was this your idea?
I don't know why. All right.
We set him up. We set him up good,
I know.
everybody.
We set you up to fail. Howling is fantastic sport for doing this. We've set him up to fail. He doesn't know anything at the moment, but he's hosting this episode, so we'll get the intros out of the way. Stoney, thanks for joining us. We just had a 20-minute conversation. How you said you were looking forward to hosting this, and that no matter how hard you objected, to push you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Still not happening.
Johnny, you were there.
I was in some point, in way, shape, or form. For sure.
We can't. Come on, man. We can't even come up with a bullshit story if you back out halfway through it.
I wasn't backing out. I just don't remember. It's a failure of the medicine.
Good legal defense.
I plead the ignorance.
Welcome to the circle. That was a terrible intro. Stoney, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Happy Friday, man. Happy Friday.
It is Friday. It's a good recording day. We don't do that as often. We usually try and squeeze it in during the week because we're losers. Johnny, how are you?
Warm.
You're warm. That's good. That's an interesting way to describe yourself. I like it. Howling, temperature, how are you?
I am doing very well. Howdy, everyone.
Fantastic. I don't think that describes temperature, but I will take it. Welcome to another episode of The Circle. And you know what? I can't go on until I know. Howling, are you warm? Or are you cold?
I'm a little cold.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, yeah.
Hey,
Stoney, how are you sitting?
We had a cold weather snap here in the Central Coast.
Yeah,
so
it sucked.
Yeah, we were teased. We had like 70-degree days, and the sun's so close to us now, so it's really warm to be outside. And so it's kind of the trickery that we stand outside, you feel like it's maybe 10, 15 degrees warmer than it actually is. But you look at the numbers on your computers and your phones, and it's 40 and 45 degrees, and you go out and it feels like 65. So we've had kind of the cold snap.
I have a theory to that. When you're as cool as you are, the sun is always shining on you.
Oh, jeez.
Well, you know what? I have an incredible sunshine that shines on me, man, and it does make me nice and warm.
Cool catons and kittens.
That's why I wear sunglasses indoors, baby. The sun's always shining when you're this cool.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Don't wear sunglasses inside. It's ludicrous. Moving on. Welcome to the circle. We were trying to come up with conversations beforehand. We've got two main ones, but they're both really interesting and different types of subjects. So I'm kind of howling. Do we go with Stoney, which is going to be educational and we're all going to learn something, or do we go with Johnny, where we're all going to rage and hate something? Where do we start?
I want to talk about the Sparx.
All right,
I really need the breakdown here,
and then Stoney can help us calm down and get out of it. Does that sound good, Stoney?
I'm all for it. All for it.
Johnny, have you been having a normal just couple weeks, or how's it been going over there in New York?
We missed an episode. We got our balls busted for it. Like, hey, do you guys even do this shit anymore? It's like, I know, I forgot. Sorry. But no, old Johnny Apple here bought a fucking house, and I wired up my own grow room. Let's make this relatively grow related for those who care. So I wired up my own grow room. Now I did this thinking I had 200 amps worth of service coming into my house. Now I've also put a pole barn up in my house. So I have 100 amps going out to my pole barn on a sub panel. I have another sub panel with 100 amps going to it. So I feared I had no issues with the amount of power I have. Now, what I did have issue was with I didn't have the wire capability coming into my house and to my panel box. I had a 200 amp panel put in sometime around 1975 by some fucking hillbilly who didn't know what the fuck he was doing and brought it in with the old 100 amp service. So my panel box was from like 1950, or my meter box was from like 1951. So it had a 100 amp wire, old braided line coming into the house. So I overdrew that by a lot. Like I've got a hot tub, I have a sauna, I have a barn, I have a grow operation, for fuck's sake. I have 5 tents. I have 5 fucking tents.
Yeah, I was about ready to say that grow is the problem.
Well, the grow is.
You don't know how much time he spends in the hot tub, dude.
But needless to say, I woke up last Tuesday morning, over a week ago now, and I woke up rudely. Like, my office doesn't have fucking power. Like, okay, yeah, all right. I traced it back to like a GFI, right to the point where like I have to be at work. I have to bring my kids to school. I'm freaking out. Like, what is going on? This is a problem I can't figure out now. So I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't my problem. This has got to be something going on at like the street. So I call the power company. They come out and they open my meter box, and my house damn near burned down. Yeah, we were overdrawing the power so much that it overheated one of the old fucking lines in the meter box and melted the stud, and it was still producing power. So like as they were there, it was still like if I had turned some more shit on, it probably would have kept sparking and kept melting because all the circuits, like, it was so weird. So yeah, I've been without power because I didn't have a proper understanding of wire size. And when my home inspector came, he didn't either. So I did all that, put a 200 amp service, wire everything into my house. By Friday, had it inspected, failed the inspection because then the panel box was too far away from the meter.
How close does it have to be?
It has to come in and immediately terminate.
Oh.
So the meter on your house, your power
like
meter that gauges, it has to come in and immediately terminate. Now, the reason for that is very simple. And he explained it to me, and I understood immediately because I'm the spaz that would do this. He goes, that wire coming from your meter all the way over to your panel box is live. There is nothing going to stop it. There is no breaker, no nothing. You cut into that thing, you're dead. Your house is burning down as you sit there and fucking melt with it.
Wait. I'm a little worried here because my breaker, my panel is in the basement. There's not a meter on the other side of that wall.
It should come in and immediately go down to it, right?
Okay.
You should only have maybe a foot of wire coming in at that point. It's probably protected. It should be. So that wire cannot have any damage coming into it because that wire is literally live the entire way. There is nothing stopping that fucking power. Now,
what
you might have a situation.
I wired it up on the side of my bathtub, and I ran the wire underneath the tub and then right into that. I figured that was the safest.
So ultimately what they made me do is they didn't make me move my panel box then. They made me put in a main panel out at the meter. So a lot of people might have this as well. You might have a main breaker shut off outside at your meter. So now I have a breaker outside. So that wire coming in, should you nick it, should something happen, it's going to immediately cut that breaker. You're safe.
So I usually always tease and I always suggest people should get another 10. Anytime they need to spend some money, it's like, get another 10. Like, now I feel kind of worried. Maybe it's that one tent that brings them over the edge.
Power is serious with the grow, man.
Yeah.
And I figured that out. I figured it out specifically last night. So during all this, I'm really starting to learn wire sizes, right? I knew if you're on a 15 amp receptacle, you can have 14 gauge wire. Right? Now, somewhere along the lines, someone could have fucking put in 12 gauge wire and wire now that into a wire into a junction box and then hooked it up to a 20 amp circuit, thinking, okay, now I can run 20 amps everywhere else, but I can still power this on. And then it's insane, man. And it was happening all over my house. There was 15 gauge wire hooked up to 15 amp wire, which is 14 gauge wire. So 14.2, 15 amp is the biggest you should put on that wire, or the biggest power you should put to that wire. There was 12 gauge wire going to a 20 amp circuit all over my house. So I've got 20 amp circuits all over the house. Great. I've got a lot of powers. I've got 200 amps coming in, but then there would be a junction box with 14 gauge wire going to a light that was also going to a receptacle. And it was just a mess. I had no idea how bad it was.
Okay, you know what? I have to give this warning for anyone listening to this when it comes out. Don't do it before bedtime, where you're now going to worry about what junction boxes you have in your house. All right. Thanks, Johnny.
I don't think warnings work after. I just want to point that out. After you listen to this, don't listen to this before you go to bed.
Well, I mean, I think there's the general assumption that you know, and I think you said it, Johnny. Like you hope that your inspector catches these sorts of things. So I think we as growers have to be really careful and cognizant of I think it's more about the load that goes onto our circuits. But to your point, we have to kind of trust that the inspectors have everything squared away to that there's enough power in the right areas, because I think that growers, to your point, Howling, it is so simple to be like, oh, I should just reinvest into another tent, but that's a tent, it's another light, it's another humidifier. There's a lot more power to go to that. And if you just put that on the same breaker system down in your basement or wherever your grow is, you're running into some danger there. So I think that there's a lot of these,
like if you're putting all that onto a breaker that can handle it on a wire size that cannot.
Right. Exactly.
Well, yeah,
like the breaker doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
did everything right
adding
on the
too much
outside.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
no, you bring up a good point, Stoney, because the one reason that my grow is the size that it is because that is what the safe power consumption is, right? Because otherwise I'd be overloading something, and I don't want, one, to every time Megan plugs something in to get fucking yelled at that something tripped, and two, the fucking unnecessary risk, right? Like putting another light and a whole nother exhaust system onto that breaker, I could probably get away with it, but probably is not really fucking worth it when I'm at work and I'm going, shit, I hope something doesn't fucking happen.
Well, and you know, a lot of times when we start to put things onto into the receptacles, we think about it, like it's sometimes it's a little bit of a task, but you really should take a look and see how much power is going to be drawing off each one of them. And it'll say in the instructions, like, read into it and then figure out what the total load is. But the good rule of thumb is that you never want to be right at that number. You want to be well below it, because you have to expect that something is going to kick at full power and rip on. Things like heaters do a massive draw on. If you don't have surge protectors, that makes a huge difference in it too. So things, when you look at like your receptacles, a lot of people will say, well, it's plugged into this one and this one's on the other side of the room. Well, they may still be on the same circuit,
same wire.
So you really have to be careful and really kind of take a look at your circuit. So when you're setting up your grow, it's one thing if you've got kind of a small one-time thing, but you really shouldn't have like other lights on or things that have any other draw in the room that's going, ceiling fans and that sort of thing, because you really just don't want to mess around with those breakers. And I think that old rule of thumb is like, go by every like 2, 3, 4 weeks and just put your hands on it and like feel the plugs. If they're feeling hot, backtrack, take a look at your watts, take a look at what the draw is on everything, spread things out a little bit more, even if it means finding a different area to bring a cord in from. You never really want to run things on extension cords, but you know,
and see, that's exactly where I was lucky. So my problem ended up being is way out at the meter. So I had everything, like they were okay because there was enough circuits running throughout the house, like especially in my grow, like each tent has its own circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, each 4x4 tent. So my 2x4s are on a circuit. Each 4x4 is on its own circuit. And then my other one is on a whole other circuit. So there's 3 circuits in just for my tents. And then I have lights for my 4x4s on a whole other circuit. Like there's a lot of circuits coming in. It was way out there that the wire size was too small that I had no idea.
Johnny
Well,
sounds
and
like a
then the
circuit
junction
queen.
boxes later on after, because I had a panel box from 1975. So I had to change that out at the same time. And then come to find out, just so you know, it's not just about the circuits and everything else. My house was ungrounded. There was no
Jesus.
grounding wire connected to my fucking house at all at any point, except for lightning rods that I had on my roof.
Who fucking
All
wired
throughout
this?
my
Benjamin
house.
Franklin? What the?
I know,
It's insane.
Jesus.
It's insane. Yeah.
The ground wire hadn't thus come into the conversation yet. Like
I'm not
once
even
we
kidding
figure
you.
out grounding, we'll fucking get this electricity
There's
down.
there's this
Does anyone have an extra kite?
ridiculous like power
Get
saver
the key.
fucking thing connected to the panel box. It's like this, I don't know, it seems like gimmicky, but there's this big box that was wired into this old panel box through like the Power Saver 3000 will reduce your power consumption. It's like, fuck you, how? First of all,
Oh, good.
that's not working. And then there was this like other little surge and I'm like, okay, these people really cared about their electricity. That we're good. I don't have to worry about the grounding. There's lightning rods on the roof. There's grounding rods all over the house. Never thought to like pull my wires out of my fucking panel box to make sure the fucking panel box itself was grounded. It was not.
Jesus.
There was no. I kept my hot tub has been tripping since the fucking moment I installed it. I'm like, what is going on? I've checked every wire, ran every fucking test, can't figure it out. Now I know it was tripping on ground fault because it's not fucking grounded. It's
super safe. Now, do you also blow dry your hair and shave in the hot tub?
as you can. Well, we're not on video, but as you can tell, I don't have much hair.
It's like a human crock pot, dude. It just
I know.
festers, bro.
Just sitting
But-
in the hot tub.
So
all
it's
day,
been a
every
week.
day.
It's been a fucking week. Last night I get home and I've got 2 wires to run to get my grow operation back going. Got 2 wires to run. I ran those 2 wires. I got the one connected, so my 4x4s now have fans turned back on. The one wire I have left to run is for my light switch. The 12 volt 20 amp 220 circuit running into the light box, which controls 2 4x4s on individual switches. I ran that wire together with the other wire. The other wire I got wired up first, everything wire nutted in, close the junction box back up, flip the breaker. I walk out. My fucking tents have fans. They're exhausting. There's wind blowing on them again. They're happy ladies. Yes, I've got 6 wire nuts to fucking wire together, and I'm gonna have lights again in these tents, and my grow operation is back running. It's 11:30 at night, fellas. I'm exhausted. I'm doing it anyways. I connect every fucking wire. I flip that breaker, and it sparks in my fucking faces and pop. What the fuck, man? What did I just had this, like, I just tested this line before reconnecting it. It was fine. Like, I had it hooked up to a temporary wire to make sure I knew what circuit it was. I could label it properly. I'm not understanding. So I'm like, okay, did I nick the wire? I'm walking through with a fucking flashlight, running the whole line. I don't see any possible damage. I'm like, okay, turn the breaker back on, pop. I don't get it. So I disconnected everything. Have just the one wire coming from this fucking breaker now and have it wire knitted up. Turn the breaker back on, pop. I'm going, oh, what the fuck, man? There's a faulty wire here. Which wire is it? It doesn't, at this point, it doesn't matter copper ain't cheap, and I got to run a whole new fucking wire another fucking 50 feet from the breaker to my goddamn grow operation. It's like, I can't win. But enough of my bitching. It's important, man, to get your fucking power right. And in the meantime, let's talk about that. What did I do for my girls when I was running on a fucking generator? And I have just enough lights and just enough power to like run the toaster and maybe my furnace, but I'm not turning on my mini split to the fucking grow. I'm not turning on the fans. I'm not running their lights because I have to fucking do the best I can to keep my house operational. I got kids, they have school. There's like, I'm doing the best I can here. So what do I do for my ladies? Well, I run an extension cord with a fucking 100-watt light bulb shining on both my 4x4s with the tents completely unzipped. Like, I'm just giving them just enough light to say, hey, it's not the apocalypse. I promise. There's something. That's all I got for you. And then like lit the fucking wood stove and just kind of let the hot air come in as best I could, but kept everything open and kept the lights on. It's just, but it wasn't enough. The autoflowers don't care. They're just doing their thing. Tangy's bulging. She's like, thanks, dude. It was like, thanks. I guess I needed 12 hours of light on and 12 off. It's like, this is fucking great. The other two are a little shorter, so they're just like, meh, I'm ready to be done anyways. But fucking Hella Jelly, she started the flower. She hasn't had enough light, so she's getting hormonal, and she's like, hi, I want to get laid.
Is this the mom plant?
The mom, yeah. Yep. But I mean, and this is the frustrating part because I know she's in flower, so I'm really trying to get that one fucking circuit hooked back up. And all I have to do is just put it on a timer, but I'm not, it's like beating myself up. If I just put it on a timer, I'm going to ignore it. And then I can go fucking 2 weeks with this just running on a fucking timer with an extension cord. It's like, no, hook the lights up, get it done properly. And then I do it and it fucking throws I nick a wire and it's just, so she's got an extension cord running again. So this is fun. I like this. This is how electricity works. And it's very important in your grow and in your house. And make sure you pay attention because your plants will suffer. Oh, and any of the fucking clones I was keeping, the apple dragons, yeah, they're all fucking dead. It's just like, they're gone, man. I had to worry about the 2 tents that I could fucking worry about along with trying to rewire my entire house at the same time. Like, oh, this is fun. This is awesome.
Well, in light of all the horrible news, I like to point out that you didn't, your house didn't burn down, thankfully. So
thank
I'm
God
glad you're
for
still
that,
with
man.
us.
Because if it
Yeah,
hadn't
could've
happened
been-
when it did, like we wouldn't have been home. It could have just kept fucking going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been a devastation that you wouldn't have been able to recover from. So
Yeah,
we're thankful you're still here with us. I don't mean to put an end to your suffering, but I'm sure you want to move on too to something more lively. So before we go to class with Stoney, let's get an update on Howling's garden. It's minimal, so I know he won't be too upset with me.
It's just the 2 autos right now. I'm just running the Sirius Blue and the strawberry milk and cookies, and I'm not going to be sad about it because I do like those 2 plants quite a bit. The fade's starting to come in, and it's been just a wonderful grow. I think this 1x3 bed's working out pretty well for me. So I can't
They
wait
look
to run
amazing.
It worked out really good.
The dolly that your son has taken ownership of is
both of them. I built 2 dollies, and he has now. They're like his little goat carts now.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah, but I don't.
Better use.
Yeah, it really is. So he's getting a joy out of it. And then
yeah.
I've been procrastinating starting. I have the tent set up. I have the beans and the cups that I soak them in on top of the tent for about 2 weeks now. And I have not started them. And I don't know where. I don't know. I don't know why I'm getting so nervous of starting something again. I need to get the fuck at it. But
I hate to inform you, but close enough does not apply to germinating seeds.
No, it does not. It's
just do it, dude. I'm excited to see this run too. You're holding yourself back.
I don't know why. I really don't know
either. And this was all you were doing the peach lemon, right? Just 4 peach lemon. No.
I'm doing the four different Romulan strains that I have, all very heavily broadleaf.
Yeah, what a shame. Playing to your strengths, though. I dig it. Give us a rundown in case people haven't remembered.
So I am going to run Grapeful, Texaco Slushy, Pure Crush, and the most recent one I picked up was Black Lung, and I couldn't pass that one up. That's dominant terpenes lemonine, so it's like, well, shit. I was sold once I saw that. I was like, oh fuck, I'm waiting, and that was like my whole procrastination excuse. Like, all right, I don't have to soak anything. I'm gonna wait for Black Lung to come in the mail. Little did I know that I ordered it on a Friday. It came on Monday.
Oh, good. I thought only bought you 2 days.
I thought it bought me more time. So since it came last Monday, and yeah, the beans are there. It's just I got to start getting them wet. They're not gonna wet themselves.
Which one was described as the most broadleaf leaning one again?
Pure
was that
Crush.
The pure? Yeah. That's what I figured.
That's the 90. Well, he estimated like 95% indica. Jesus. So this will be that will, as far as any breeder that tells you kind of like which percentage it leans. This definitely will be the most broad I've grown.
Yeah, that shit would be like with fentanyl where it touches you and it kills you. I'd touch it and just go into a coma for fucking a couple hours. Dude. My body chemistry does not fucking react to that shit well. But
that'll be your summer harvest, man. Your evening time joints out in the backyard with the dog running around is going to be pretty interesting. It won't make it back in.
It's going to be chaos.
He'll take a single puff and be locked outside in the fucking middle of summer.
I'm going to go outside with the kid and the dog, light up a fire.
River, get the sun. Yep. River, get my son.
Well, it's a good thing she's pretty protective of him because he's going to need it while I'm passed out.
Fucking don't smoke it on the river. Howling's gone floating again. We'll find him somewhere else.
That was your choice, dude. It was your choice.
Yeah. Well, Stoney, before you educate us, give us a little update on your garden. You shared some wonderful pictures today, much to the bullying of several members in the Discord. And I quite frankly think you owe an apology to us all for not posting more pictures.
Yeah, it's been a little while and a little busy in my world. So with that Harvey Wallbanger that I've been posting up there, she's the definite standout in the entire tent. But I've got a really full tent. St. Expeditus next to it is doing wonderful. I mean, they're all in the spot of flowering. My whole basement now is starting to just have that general funk. So I got to start pulling out the air fresheners and figuring out mitigation for some of the aromas that are happening. And that's where I was curious. I stepped in there today to take a really good whiff and to see what the Harvey Wallbanger was sniffing so far. But I've got the Outlier Z that's in bonsai that is pretty close to being done. And that was my true official entry for the night I'll grow together, because I didn't have time to get the whole tent flipped around because I was still in the middle of dry and cure. So I planted an Outlier Z, and so it's actually pretty close to coming to harvest, and I do need to get in there and take some pictures of. And then I've got the Kamen Kool-Aid is one of my other favorites in there. Not quite the height, and I'm sure it's user error on this one. But I'm anxious to see what it's definitely going to get ran another full time. And then I've got the Funeral Desserts, the little pink pheno, which has not quite turned pink yet. But it's still
not going to.
It's still so early, man. It's still so early.
No. We've come to the conclusion that BGG is a fraud.
He's a liar.
He's a pink grifter. He's a pink grifter, man.
He's a photoshopper.
He said 1 in 10, and we have proof that there's at least been 100 grows that we've seen. Not true at all. There's been like 3, but there's been like 100 grows, and not a single one of them pink.
Well, I mean,
anywho,
yeah, I'm excited to see. It's the one. It's It's the smallest in the tent, and it's definitely stunted, but I'm just holding out to see if I can get any sort of that pink color out. I'm really excited to see if it will come through. But the other one that's just large and the other just sitting right next to the Harvey Wallbanger is Alabrije's Jack Frost. And that's the one I'm probably it's the most giant nugs in the room so far. And feels like they're gonna swell even more than what they are. So I'm pretty stoked about them. It's the Jimmy Jacks and then the Purple Nuggets Autofem. The two crosses for it. So it'll probably be the most purple in the room next to the St. Expeditus. I'm curious to see what that one's. I've got pinks and purples, all sorts of stuff rolling into the room. So it's I'm really excited about them. And I think that I kind of started going off on a little tangent into my head and went down a little rabbit hole of research earlier this afternoon, reminding myself around the term anthocyanins. You guys familiar with that term? Heard that one around before?
Yeah.
Anthocyanins?
I
Dude,
just learned electricity.
Big wire, small wire.
Anthocyanins, and I go way back, dude.
I can't even say anthrosiasis. Anthrosoriasis, arthritis.
I'm only saying anthocyanins because Stoney taught me the word before we started recording.
So to
answer your question, no, I don't know what the
anthocyanins. They are so anything that plants produce that's in the reds and purples and blues, or it's a production of the anthocyanin is in the plant. Those are the antioxidants that we get in berries, raspberries, blackberries. The higher concentration of purple tends to have these higher concentrations of these antioxidants. But the anthocyanins also carry a lot of those aromas of fruits and berries. And so what sent me down the road on it is I went in and someone asked if I was getting anything out, because I'm only like in the 50s on days for the Harvey Wallbanger. And I've noticed just to get some of the aromas of the fuel to come through. So I went in and I did the little like stem rub, and I actually got onto a nug, got my fingers nice and resiny, sticky, came out of the tent so I could get away from the room and really gave it a good snoof. Picked up a bunch of the citrus, picked up a bunch of the diesel. Yeah, get a big snoof of it. Got all the fuels, but I didn't get any of the berries that I was anticipating. But it made a lot of sense because I haven't seen any real senescence starting to happen in the room. Starting to see maybe some colors change from green moving into the yellows, but I haven't seen any of the blues or purples or anything starting to develop. So I wondered like how much of that impact I actually had into it. And so I went down a rabbit hole and just started messing around because we see a lot of these purple weeds. And it was kind of interesting. Howling was saying earlier that I think at this very, very top of the show, blueberry OJ. I smoked some of the sour gingerbread from Alabrije before the show, and it's my reserve. It's my evening time.
Mhm.
Definitely has the one that really sets me down, relaxes me, gets me calm. Is incredible for anxiety. I love it for it. But I open up that jar, and it is inky purple. And I open it up and I'm just like blasted with this sort of fresh blueberry, different, and I find so many different kinds of blueberries that to describe out of, but I get a really like fresh, wild blueberry. And then this whole other component of if anyone's ever had a huckleberry before, or like a loganberry, where it's not quite as sharp and bright as a raspberry, not quite as inky as a blackberry, but somewhere sweet and in between. So like when the sour gingerbread is just packed with this sort of berry aromas. Those are all the anthocyanins. Anthocyanins actually are plants actually make them towards the end because it helps think of it like sunscreen. So that it in higher amounts of the light, there's less of the chlorophyll. It creates these anthocyanins to begin to kind of protect the surface of it. And within there, we get these aromas, we get these flavors that come through. So a lot of what you're tasting in blackberries, blueberries, any of your favorite kind of berries are these anthocyanins, are these antioxidants that do incredible things. So think elderberries, and with the magic of everyone, you're seeing elderberry and almost everything now is a natural tonic. Yeah, it's incredible stuff. So I went down a rabbit hole this afternoon around anthocyanins, but it's it definitely, I see that in the blueberries and all the strains that we've got, and such a huge flavor element too. But I know from my experience, it just is definitely calming and relaxing anytime I see these blues and purples. So I think I've had almost 3 rounds now where I've had purples and blues in my tent, and I think I'll keep them around.
Do you at this point, do you try and get 1 or 2 of them, you think, going forward?
Yeah, honestly,
Right
I
on.
mean, whether or not like what I've loved about this sour gingerbread is the instant classic that I've got is a little racy, it's a little edgy, and not something, I mean, to have all on its own. There's a window in the day where I can be productive around it. Otherwise, it can be a little bit more, just gets me a little racy, a little too much.
Right on. It's your offset.
Yeah.
You make your blend.
So when I take that sour gingerbread, I'll just blend that if I need to calm anything down. So even if it's just like I had some Pinot Noir the other day and back blended it with a little of that sour gingerbread. It was incredible. Incredible. Just love playing with flavors now.
I really like the Pinot Noir.
Mm-hmm.
That one aged pretty good. It's definitely nice to have around.
Yeah, and then when I punched like remember that it was almost like a current.
Who'd you punch?
It's like a punchy blue, like a blueberry, like that I'm getting from the sour gingerbread, where that punchy blueberry jumped right out, and what I loved about the Pinot Noir was almost just like it was definitely like an aged berry, gave me like currants, and it was so, to mix all those together, it was just like making a little berry salad in a joint. So I've been playing more and more now with mixing different strains together to get different flavor profiles, and it's just fun. It's fun. And
do you measure out the ratios?
Yeah,
like, as I know you weigh your joints, so does you weigh out the ratios?
You incorporate butter?
I was waiting for the ball busting. Like, come on, we let him have too much fun here. We gave him too much. Dude,
it was
like we were at a fucking library lesson or something.
Well, you know what? I had to, like, in all things that I try and do, you seek balance, right? We just raged at electricity for a long time. So I was allowing the alternative and the poet laureate to go off and calm us all down. And then we'll find some medium, probably on the more pissed off side.
2 joints per stick.
Get angry easily. Yeah, dude. But no, I think that's wonderful, man. I think that's a really cool deep dive. I know Howling was doing deep dives recently on all kinds of shit. I don't want to just throw them into the fire, like put them on the spot. As they were saying, you were looking up some top dressing and stuff, right? And some teas with different worm castings.
I'm intrigued. So there was a Instagram post showing, like, I read the caption of making like a compost tea, but then like the reel was tossing some shit in a bucket that I mean, it looked like almost drywall plaster at first. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? So looked more into it, and it's ingredients that I've never seen. Like, most people do the molasses, the castings or something, maybe a little bit of nutrient type tea. But this was oat flour, blended and strained beets, some purple, or it's not purple, it's like a navy blue liquid that I forget the name of, but it's like a natural blue to it or something. I think it comes from some plant extract or something, and just so many other things tossed into this tea. And I got quickly overwhelmed. And it was like, at first I was like, oh, you know what? This may be unique enough for me to try. I don't really see people doing this. And then I looked a little more into it of like why those things are used. And I'm like, I got so over my head. Next thing I know, I was reading some database online that if you search for things like lettuce or something, it'll tell you the average nutrient breakdown of each of
Oh,
those. And
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's a pretty interesting fucking website.
it was nuts. Like just the amount of data that was there. And I'm like, and there's people that really tailor their teas or the makeup of their soil or their top dressings, everything based on stuff like that. And it's just like, I thought like people say like organic is the hard mode, or like no, it's the easy mode. It's when you get into that all that other shit that's the hard mode. It just blew my mind, and I
Well, like
backed away.
KNF and Budam and stuff like that.
Oh, it's just I don't know. I just want to toss some powder on top and be done.
Yeah. I don't know. I absolutely love all of the organic and making my own inputs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that stuff, like we were talking, right, is for acreage. So there's a lot of stuff that you actually have to pick and choose, right? Like a lot of it doesn't make sense to do in a small indoor garden, just period, right? It'd be great to have, but if you're an apartment dweller like the loser I am, you don't really need as many 5-gallon buckets as some of the rest of it might entail. But that's the fun of it, I think, is just picking and choosing what you want to use, what seems cool, what's available to, right? And making it work for your space. But I do agree that you can nerd out on that shit, and you can really, really, I mean, you can make a career out of it if you'd like.
And then, I mean, the same person that posted that post how I got onto it is because I was listening to her on some YouTube interview, and I never realized like even the species of worms in your bed can change what nutrients are available or how it behaves. It's like every species of everything contributes in a different way. That's like why people are so interested in like getting soil samples and stuff from like Israel and seeing what the makeup of it is because like they have different things, some reason in their soil that's not indigenous to here. And you just like, for some of us, we buy the cheapest myco product or the cheapest inoculant, and like that's what we go with, and not realize that like that's just the species that they so happen to isolate, but there's thousands more and they all do different things, and it's definitely a deep rabbit hole.
The worms is a fantastic rabbit hole too, especially if you want to keep them for composting and do different layered composting systems, but that's a whole another show.
Well, I was just amazed, like people know, like there are certain worm species that are more suitable for composting and such, and some are better to be put on my hook eaten by a fish. Like it's just the way it is. But like I didn't realize even
all are great bait.
They all work.
Like, some are spectacularly better at bait. Like I think. Is it European night crawlers? I believe are specific.
Yeah, the night crawlers. The night crawlers are the ones that go. They'll usually lay about, or they do most of their work about 2 feet underground. 2 to 3 feet is where they really start. Yeah. So the red wigglers, which is like a lot of people I'll see if we see a worm out in the yard, I can throw it in my pot. No, you really want those red wigglers because those are the ones that stay in the top 1.5 feet or so. That's where they're doing all their work, and that's where all of our feeder roots are. So, like, I use the Kawoko and the reason that I use that versus the castings that you can get is that it's vermicompost. So there's cocoons that are in there. So when go ahead, man.
No, that must have like I might have used the Kawoko on my bed. For some reason, I've never added any. This was some like used old dry soil. Yeah. And eventually at some point I went and checked under the cover, and like there's like 10 worms right there. I'm like, I did not put you in there. Like I have no idea where you came from. Yeah. But there you are.
The worm breeding cycle is what makes worm farms so easy. Not easy, but so easy to start and like maintain, is that they will lay their cocoons and they only trigger when the environment is well enough for them to hatch. So you don't necessarily want bad things to happen, obviously, but you don't get devastated like if all your cows die necessarily, right? Like there's slight help.
Well, and I think there's that difference between when you're getting castings at the store. If you're getting bags of castings, you're getting a little freeze dried actual little poo. Like you're getting the actual castings. what I love about the Cowoco, and I think it's one of the rare ones that you get, vermicompost, and I think that's the key to what you have to do any sort of searching around it, is that you get those cocoons. And so I would say every time I start a grow, and I use Cowoco pretty consistently, with the top dressing, and it's in there in the very beginning. Every time I turn my pots over to do inspection, I bet I find a dozen worms. It is, I think, a huge difference in impact between buying.
Basically, that's
just
unsifted, right?
Yeah,
It's to an extent
It's not like
It's
it's not castings. You're not seeing like little black fucking.
No, they're
pellets.
there. No, they're
They
in
are.
there
Still
as
there,
well.
right?
Yeah, but it's probably, I mean, it's probably a fines and the screening, right?
Yeah,
So
it's unsifted.
yeah, it's a
So what
match.
happens is it's almost like the 1 ton method, right, Padre?
Yes.
It's like they build it up the layers
yes,
and layers and layers.
exactly.
Like there's still going to be some worms and some shit left
Mhm.
over, but majority of them have moved to the top. So you're getting the bottom layer of that
So
scooped out and given to you.
especially in like a lot of big farms that they'll just do a long trough method, and they'll do a wedge method and drive them and like wedge off and just sift that to get rid of some of the bullshit, and then send out the rest as vermicompost, which is excellent because of the bacteria in it anyway. And you can lose a lot of the shit when you get too fine.
Yep.
But
especially when it's freeze dried, because you're looking at
Mhm.
bacterial, because you almost just have to envision that the worm's kind of moving through soil, it's eating it and just kind of passing it through, and it's breaking everything down. So what it's leaving behind is like ripe, ready, raw, perfectly nutrient ready. Like it's like everything's in the place that it needs to be. Everything is unlocked that it needs to be because of those little worms. And coming out that other end is that black gold. But then also they're laying eggs along the way, and they're also eating and chewing and leaving canals. And I mean, it's just an incredible process that happens. But
So what you're saying is it's good that I still have my urban worm bag in a box for 2 months.
yeah.
Yes, it's excellent.
Okay,
Doing a lot of
perfect.
good.
Yep.
You have
But-
created your own worm bin in your planner, because those worms will grow exponentially to fit the size. So,
And they will stop when there's the population works for that soil,
Self-regulating,
right? They
very
control themselves.
self-regulating.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my
Hey.
dad to understand that. We were talking about one of his, I think it was his 2x4 bed. And he's like, I need worms. I'm like, no, you need to have the proper environment. They're going to self-regulate. I don't need to bring you any more worms. It's trust me, they're there. The cocoons are there. We just need to provide the proper environment. Me adding 10 worms to your shit right now isn't going to help you at all. They're there.
And the problem with that is you got to buy like 1,000 at a time. And I mean, if you are grossed out by worms, I'm sure getting that box in the mail, but because it's literally just a box of worms. But but if you're not grossed out, there's 1,000 worms. Like, what are you gonna do with 1,000 worms? Like, none of us are on scale.
You see it. I like with my urban worm bag, man. I was under maintaining it. Basically, I would feed the shit out of it, get a bunch of fucking fruit flies, and then sift some castings out in like 6 months or some shit. Now I'm feeding it like regularly, and there's a fucking steady supply of worms in there. You put a rotten avocado on top of there, and there's thousands of worms at that avocado.
Yeah.
And I put 2 watermelons in there, man. Just cut them up. The fucking like the fungal network and the mycelium mat that came over the entire worm bin and then immediately settled down created a worm population on top that was insane. It was like, holy fuck, man. But they're there. You just have to like maintain a top layer and feed the shit out of them, and you're gonna see a fuck ton of worms.
dude,
And if you don't,
just brought
they're
up-
gonna die off. And
you just brought up a totally unrelated point, but somewhat related, right? When I pulled the male tangy wedding, I planted it in the top of the tray worm bin that you bought me in our introduction to worm bin episode. And that fucker sent a root to the bin below it, and it was in complete dark for 2 weeks. And I opened the lid, it was still greenish. I mean, it looked like it was light deprived, but not like, and the roots had gone down to the very bottom. That fucking tangy wedding is a survivor, dude.
Holy shit, that's insane.
It fucking blew me away. Like I literally opened it and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like it took me a second to remember that I put the plant there. Because for a second there, my mind was, holy shit, this plant just grew from nothing. What the hell? And then I was like, oh yeah, I put the plant there. But still, it fucking went on for 2 weeks, dude. I bet you if I went and checked right now, it would still be raging on. I'll take
That's
a picture
insane,
if I
dude.
remember to.
It does show you how like
They
the
wanna live.
amount, the capability of the plant, and then the soil too. When you've got the proper shit there, when you've got worms, man, it's
Mhm.
insane.
Dude, worms are Well,
Yeah.
and they also you think about it at a smaller scale. Like Howling said last time that this is the most life he's ever had in his beds,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But those worms solve so many issues you don't even have to think about because they deal with the compact issues of your soil getting too compact, right? Like you think you go through worm castings and how well that you could get your hands through it, right? That's probably the worst example of just saying it's not compact that I could think of, but it makes the soil so much better, and like you'll see with Howling, even the shit on top, right? As it's eating and breaking down, and it's all the things are shitting essentially. You're just allowing for more environment for the water to sit and stay and hydrate better, and it just all kind of creates its own ecosystem, which is all we're essentially doing.
I mean,
Is
even a
trying to
physical.
replicate the fallen fruit, right? That's all we're trying to do is replicate. I can't talk now. I've gotten too stoned.
Replicate.
But you know what? Yes,
Well,
thank you, my friend.
to your
Holy
point,
shit!
the
Did I just fix you? What's
Yeah.
going on here?
To your point of loosening the soil, like physically, those things are moving through, and they leave
Mhm.
channels behind them. Like they leave trails behind them, and that leaves space for roots to grow. That
And they
leaves.
create like a bacteria, and the
Mhm.
Yeah,
bacteria
entire-
helps everything, and they
Yep.
create more opportunity for fucking nutrients and more bacteria and more fungal, and it's all everything. That's why I let spiders in my fucking tents. I've seen spiders in there, and it's been like, oh, I gotta get this spider out. It's like, fuck, no, I don't. It's a big ass spider. He's gonna eat some shit that I don't want to have in there. What the fuck is he gonna hurt? He's gonna
Nah,
have a
man.
little web up in the corner that he's gonna trap flies and that sort of shit. Let him go. I'll watch him. He's not
I let
getting
a
on the
dude I
plants.
met
He's
in
not.
prison named Spider sleep in my grill for a couple of weeks, and he fucked it up, dude. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, spiders are cool with me. I'm always more stoked if they keep the other fucking pests away. I really want to get a bunch of frogs and fill them in my tents, but that's just cruel because then I'd have to release enough food for them to eat, and I don't want to be releasing crickets and shit into my tents.
You're just
'cause I got a
creating your own
fucking frog.
ecosystem there.
Yeah, and like I said, my dream of living in a terrarium will be realized one day. I just need to convince Megan. And
Well, you could release ladybugs for the frogs. The ladybugs will eat the fucking all the bad shit around, and then the frogs can eat the ladybugs. And
yeah, but that only works if that only works if the frogs keep the ladybug population in check. And I think ladybugs are venomous, so I can't quite imagine that frogs would like to, or at least they mimic venom. I can't remember, but I think
Really?
they're
No
It's
poisonous.
a pinch,
Some
dude.
lizards.
It's just a pinch.
no shit. That's
Yeah.
fucking. The
They'll-
more
they'll
you
pinch
know.
I think someone looked that up one day, but I thought I remember that. But because there's something like you don't want to feed them to lizards and stuff like that. But maybe that's
Oh, shit.
specifically.
Yeah, they're
lizards.
only poisonous if you eat them.
Huh.
See, yeah, you don't want to eat them. So you don't want to give them to frogs. But see,
Or
my
maybe you
backwards.
do. Frogs and wolves.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Dude. Well, like apples are going to come out as a superior being with an actual animal. And
Well, we're not gonna die from ladybug poisoning. I'll tell you that much.
that's true. That's very true. I forgot what we were talking about completely now. But yes,
Nature,
worms.
man.
Get them. If you don't have them, I recommend them. Start a worm bin. They're really easy if you pay attention to them. I will say, if you stop paying attention to them, they will die.
Seriously, if you're doing it just for a fucking small 2x4, it doesn't take a lot, and you can do it. Like, look up shoebox worm bins, man. You don't have to go all out with it. You can get enough worm castings for your grow and what you eat at home in a small fucking worm bin, man. It doesn't have to be that big of a thing.
You know, I have used, and I will say, search out vermicompost because I think Kawoko would say the same thing. The Colorado Worm Company. Find vermicompost is your best bet for it. I use Kawoko. I've had it in my grow since the very beginning, where I think I get my benefit from all of that worm action comes from that vermicompost, exactly what you were talking about, Howler. Even in autoflowers, even in a 3-gallon pot, using that and dumping it out and finding 5, 6, 7 just after 80 days that were pretty healthy looking worms.
Mhm.
I see it as a huge advantage. So if you can and have that castings and you've got the bag and you can get that juice that drips out of there, oh my God, is that stuff that's like inky nutrients right there. But if you don't have that access, get something like, if you can't get vermicompost, get castings themselves, because everything about it, it's just the magical fix-all pretty much for the garden. I really believe
And don't
that is one
forget,
key element. Yeah.
the ranking always goes the stuff you make in your own house, like the stuff you make yourself, the closest thing to your house you can source, or castings in general, right? It's better
Yeah.
still to have
Yep.
castings from a big box store than no castings
Absolutely.
at all. But
Mhm.
there are
So-
better options.
There's castings available to me locally, right?
Yes.
So, but it's not that local. It's at least an hour away.
If
I've
you're
gotten
willing
them,
to
I've
do the
used them in
drive,
my
it's still
garden.
good. Yeah.
But what
Like
there is, no, go ahead.
No, like I've used San Diego. Like they have quite a few pretty good casting places that I've used. And, granted it's only 45 minutes and it's not, that far, but that was before I had my own.
But the other option I'm considering is there's a company local to me. They bag compost. So they call it natural compost. I'm sure it's like horse manure and other natural stuff, but it's compost. It's super hot. I've used it in my yard outside, but I could take that compost and put it into my worm bin and feed the worms some compost, give them some bedding to be in, and then add some other organic material too, and then turn that hot compost into a safer alternative to use in my garden. Then it's
Yeah,
not
they
as
actually
hot
can.
when it turns
Yeah,
into castings. Then
they'll
like the
help that
worms will
conversion
fucking
process.
shred the shit out of that stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go get a fucking bag of it and throw it in the worm bin and see what it does, and like put some avocados and some watermelon on top. And yeah, man.
That's what
Like-
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think it'll be really interesting to see how great this stuff is. My absolute dream would be to have independent flow through bins so that I could have a flowering bin, a
Mhm.
veg bin, because you can really tailor the castings to your specific needs. But it takes a lot of work and you have to be very specific about the inputs, obviously, right? You can't just put anything in and expect this shit out. So, but like I said, that's a whole conversation for we had that worm farm on one time. We should have him on again in a better audio so he can answer more questions. Because it's always interesting to see how they do it commercially, especially as the industry seems to be taking off more. But I would also recommend, do it yourself. It's so simple.
100%. It really is.
And just start using them. Just start incorporating them, and don't be afraid of them. And circling back to Howler, and you were talking about seeing that, seeing someone mix up a bunch of things into a pot, like made like a paste out of it, or in the bucket that you're talking about. A lot of those things can be used. You can. I completely lost that one. So
Bravo, Johnny.
That's
Johnny, that one.
It's
Someone take me back to that one.
I think you were going to say that you can use scraps to do a lot of that stuff. You don't have to use fresh stuff, perhaps. Was that your thought?
Yes. Oh no, I know where I was going with this.
Okay.
People get really tied into the recipe around making teas.
Yes.
And you were talking about, I know there's a lot of different teas, and you have to add the molasses, and you have to brew, and you have to all these sorts of things. There is some sort of anecdotal reading that I found around making what's called a whip. And you don't necessarily have to, like, you can make it with a paint stirrer, like the one that you can have on the end of a drill. In effect, you can basically knock the bacteria off without culturing it. Right. So when you add the sugar and you add the water and you let it go overnight, you're culturing the bacteria, you're bringing it all back to life. You can do the same process without it like culturing and starting the expansion of its like, you know, rapidly rebreeding on itself by just putting it in water 15 to 20 minutes with either a paint stirrer on the end of a drill. I've done it in like a mason jar and just do it, shake it, you know, I'll shake it, really agitate it for a few minutes and then set it down, let it settle. I threw a little QEA into it just to loosen the, like, free the water up and make things dissolve a little bit more. But again, don't feel like you have
Doesn't
to,
that
like,
help keep things in solution too? So it's gonna like not only like so shaking it up
It's
in a
called
mason jar, everything
emulsify,
might
isn't it?
stencil. Yeah, it's gonna emulsify it, so everything's gonna be in solution at that point, and then creating even more room for the bacteria and shit. Yeah, that's smart. I would also do that.
So it's a way to like start, like, you can make like a whipped tea basically and do a drench. And you've really just kind of hydrated, broken everything up. So if you just kind of think about it from that aspect, like you take the actual casting, the like think of it like a ball of, and you wet it down and you make it into a mud and you shake it up and you break it down into smaller particles and you drench that into your soil, you already got the advantage. So, you know, don't feel stuck on making these teas that has to be the certain recipe and you can get nervous about it. We've talked about them before, but you can do really simple things with these castings. I mean, they really are like a gardener's golden touch. Really.
Also, there's fulvic acid, I think,
and humic too.
Humic acid. Yeah, there's some, that's also a miracle fucking thing that's often not talked about. And I kind of want to do some more research into humic acid. It's yeah.
Yeah, I know kind of just on the surface level, I might have to go digging into them a little bit more, but they are they are one of the sort of macronutrients. And so it's acids that help to break down things. But don't quote me to that one. I'm definitely
they help on the uptake of nutrients.
Yep.
Yeah, that there's, I
It's
mean,
like
there's all of that
it's
stuff.
Something you would want to add, like
yeah.
if you got a really sick plant, you're trying to fucking nurse it back to health. Don't fucking skip on the humic acid. Like,
you know, I
add a little bit of that and some fucking like some kelp.
Yeah,
kelp is wonderful.
Yep,
huge.
I use that Nourish L all along throughout the grow, and that's full of it. And I know for a while I was using the Rootwise elixir, and that's packed with it as well. But there's a bunch of the A's.
Doesn't that have a SCOBY?
I believe it does, and there's a lot of like amylase and protease, and there's a lot that's a lot more biodiverse of an elixir. That stuff's pretty incredible. Like, it's an investment.
Yeah.
But it is.
I think I got a jar of that and I use it so little because it's so fucking expensive.
Yeah, it's pretty pricey. But then it does.
But I use that
bad.
in the same place of like fulvic. Yeah.
It's got a shelf life, and I think you know. Don't quote me on having a SCOBY in there, but it is definitely a live enough culture where they put like use within 6 months of purchase. So like there's definitely a life cycle to it. Definitely a life cycle.
Yeah, that shit's crazy. I got one more question before we get into fucking ending this episode. So you Stoney, I think it was you mentioned a strain that helped with anxiety a lot. So I got a question for you guys. When you find a strain that helps with your anxiety, does it also hurt your ambition?
No, I don't think so.
Really? Because I find like the most relaxing strains that help me fucking like get out of like whatever I'm stuck on, whatever I'm worried about with fucking anxiety or bouncing all over the place, I usually find also doesn't let me get off the fucking couch. It makes me feel like depressed and like I can get over the anxiety. Like I just won't fucking do it.
I think that's a good question. I see to like, you know, I guess I kind of qualify. There are strains that knock me on my ass that do take the momentary ambition out of things. It's like, you know, like to want to get up and go do something about it. There are strains that I have that aren't necessarily couch locked that I use for anxiety, that I'll use to maybe help calm the thoughts but not necessarily calm the body. Like Tangy Wedding does that for me. It is enough of that sort of tangy where it is brightening up. It gives it a little bit, takes that kind of edge off. But the wedding really helps to kind of, for me, takes the edge off the anxiety because it helps me to think a little bit more clearly, not be as anxious about something, but it doesn't physically drop me onto the couch. Because then for me, that is, in my mind, that is counterproductive. So I'll spend more anxiety if I'm not doing something. Right. So for me, my grounding space is to like is to clean. So if my mind is on something, it's like it's the old chef's thing. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So if there's something on your mind, you can always be cleaning a cooler out, always do something. So for
By the
me,
way, fuck that saying. I've heard that my entire life growing up in shops too. And they'd always say that if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. You shut the fuck up, motherfucker. I lean on everything all the time. Okay. Fuck you.
So for me, sometimes if I'm in a mode of thought and I'm just stuck inside my head and I need to go mow the lawn or I need to go do some physical work, to your point, Johnny, I don't want something that's going to drop me on my ass because then I'm just going to sit there and think and fester and stew on it and look at the wall and look at the TV, and that's not healthy.
Yeah, so you're not worried about it. You just don't feel like getting up and fucking doing it. You're like, okay, now I know it needs to get done. I just kind of don't want to do it.
Right.
My problem was it was simple, man. I think it really was simple. It was seasonal depression. Mm-hmm. I live in fucking New York, for fuck's sake. And my supply of weed has consisted of the sauce and Apple Dragon, which are very much, how do I put this? They're burnt rubber terps. And every time you get burnt rubber terps, they're knock me on my ass. They're like a heavy fucking couch lock high, which is great when you want to go to bed.
Yeah,
but I've been beating myself up like I'm fucking like, oh, I can't, like, fuck now my electricity and blah blah blah. And then my dad gives me a jar of fucking Hella jelly. Dude, I fucking smoked that, and it was like the outlook on life was like, oh yeah, I forgot because I haven't had her in 6 fucking months because I've been out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude. I notice 100% if you get in a funk with a fucking particular strain, especially if you have a lot of it, when you get your welcome relief of some new fucking entourage effect, it is a welcome sunny day.
Word, man, it's crazy.
I think it's one of the reasons that I enjoy growing autoflowers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The variety is fucking important. It really is. Like
it's a guarantee out of the 5 plants that I'm gonna grow, that I'm going to have a pretty wide variety. One of those plants is going to be on, I try and look for something, and I kind of set myself up for it. But at least out of that 5, I've got a mid-range of about 3 medicines at any given time. And that's where I think I've gotten just more and more of the blending, but it is definitely one of the advantages of autoflowers. And one of the reasons that I chose autoflowers, because I was concerned exactly what you were just saying, Rev, like, what if I grow something and spend all this time on it, and I've got all of this flower and it kicks my ass? Or conversely, if I had an entire room full of instant classic, I would be too anxious all the time. Like I wouldn't be able to go to sleep at night. I'd have to supplement somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is running a 4x4 with 4 different, very broad plants is a good idea.
Have fun with your summer, my friend. That's what I said. You're going to be sitting on your backyard like, I can't make it back in.
See, you say that in a negative way, but think about it this way, right? You smoke so little and you grow such large, beautiful plants that you quite literally, because your tolerance, can never stop getting the entourage effect, because you grow 6 strains a year, let's say, which you don't, you grow way more. It would take you 6 months to get all the way around and then back. So you're golden, dude.
Well, and also you're very you're very knowledgeable about the strains. Really, you do a lot of research into what you're getting. So you kind of know, except for when you just throw them all in there in tent and you have an entire 4x4 of
Oh, this is gonna be so terrible.
Just
I
gonna
might
be a
have
giant
5
lazy
years of
place.
broadleaf to smoke.
This fucking summer is gonna be like, yeah, man, the sun's great or whatever, but
In fairness,
fuck
I am
this
gonna
river life.
balance the 4x4 with running. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna run that peach limon. So
Yeah,
that
there you
will be
go.
the balance. And I may run Romulan's Communion too, which is a 70-30, but narrow leaning. So I might balance it a little bit. It's just that the broadleaf goes a lot quicker, and mostly because like that feeling that Johnny was explaining, the couch lock, don't want to do anything. That's with me with a lot of weed. It doesn't matter if it's narrow or not. That's the reason why I haven't found my right medicine yet. I love it at night when I have nothing else to do, but if I had to do it during the day, all of it just hits a lazy part of my brain, and I haven't found the right stuff yet.
No, I found you got to wake up early. If you want to partake early, like, because it's medicinal, it does have a medicinal effect. Even though the high wears off, the effects thereof can last longer. So I found you got to wake up early before your drive. You fucking get the high off, and then you're good to go. Like, then you mellow out, because like normally you can get up off the couch. Like, if it's the end of the day, you're probably not getting up off the couch. But there's some strains that it just takes a lot longer. So you can't even, if you're like, I have not partaken in the morning because I haven't had a medicine that I can and find myself capable of.
Well, do you
Now,
remember
like hella
last
jelly,
year?
I can consume in the morning. It can help me with my anxiety. I'll get that little bit of a body high and a little bit of a head high. It'll wear off quick enough, and then I can fucking go about my day and feel good about it. Like, I'll have a brighter outlook. Whereas some of these other strains, like the sauce specifically, like, it has its purpose. It helps me with my fucking headache. If I overconsume, it gives me too much. But it does not help me with a brighter outlook on life. It makes me just sit on the fucking couch.
This conversation I reminisce on because it seems like, I think last year we were having this conversation when you were having all those issues with the headstrong.
It was the headstrong, man. It was.
Yeah,
And now the
just
Apple
fucking
Dragon
with
is
you.
the same. It's like the
Yeah.
same breeder, and it's probably some of the same fucking line, some way, shape, or form. Or that's like the effect they're looking
What
for,
they were
because
going
they're
for,
7 East.
yeah.
They're both 7 East. So
Your body
it could just
chemistry
be
just
that,
doesn't
man.
dig it, man. Something about whatever it is, because it is like, I think everybody knows that if you use it medicinally, like the way it reacts with your body is of the utmost importance. You generally try and get close to what you think would be normal effects by looking at terpenes, right? Like, we know we like this, we try and go for that. But sometimes things just don't react well with us, man. Like, I know some people who they take any Durbin in and they're fucking useless and jittery and ruin and crying, right? And then I know other people that are like, it's great, it's fine, somewhat of a upbeat. Like, everybody's different,
Or
so you just have to find it.
get a fucking panic attack from it.
Yeah,
Or,
for sure.
and some of it is user too. I mean, I gotta give, I gotta take some of the responsibility for that Insta Classic. I think I should have left it for another 5, 6, 7, 8 days because of the timing, because where everything was, and I take everything down at once to try and find that sweet spot. I probably could have let that go, and maybe it wouldn't be as racy as it is now, and maybe it would be that perfect sort of midday medicine for me, because I do love it. And it hits on all the tones that I do. It just a little overconsumption on it, but I think Daz even called it out. Like, it can be a little paranoid. It can bring some paranoia on a little bit too much. So, I wondered to myself, like, man, if I gave that Instant Classic another 7, 9 days, or what if I even took it for like another week or two and really kind of started to mellow it out? So even to the point we were just talking, where you read what is going to be in and you have that some sort of expectation, you still can have some effect on that as the grower too.
Yeah, that's I think we've had that conversation about, like, timing is everything on what medicinal can be, but
Mhm.
it's strain dependent too. It really is.
Absolutely.
But
And to your point, Johnny, like
and that's where photos come into play, and that's why I like photos, because you can take the same plant, run it longer. Like, okay, I love the fucking terpene profile on Hella Jelly, dude. It's amazing. You open the jar, it's, oh my god, everybody knows it around, or everybody knows when she's around. It's not for everybody. It's not that hard hitting. Like, it's not Howling strain. It wouldn't be. He would love the terpene profile. He would say, dude, it smells amazing. I like, but it's just not my medicine.
Mhm.
Now, maybe I run her for another fucking 3 weeks
6
and she's
years.
completely amber. Now she's got those same terpene profiles, but now she's got the fucking same effects he's looking for, because she's got more CBN or
Yep.
CBG or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's where I like photos. Like, you can play and figure it out. Like, okay, last run was this. Now I got to do this.
Yeah.
So everything, like, it's fun.
Photos
Anyways.
are, it is always that balance. Like, I agree with Stoney, where I grow autos for the variety. They're fun, and entourage effect of different strains is very real, right? However, photos are by far the best choice if you find a stable genetic that you fucking need, like it's good medicine for you. You would be silly not to try and get a cut of that and run it like lights out, right? Like Hella Jelly for
Like,
you right now is scratching that itch, so you would be silly not to try and just mass produce that.
yep. And of course, tangy tibiguana. Shout out Ella Brie. This episode is sponsored by Ella Brie. I was waiting till the end of the episode to fucking say that, because the entire time my fucking house was out without power, my doors were open to get heat throughout the entire house. My tent flaps were open so that the fucking plants could breathe. My entire house has smelled like tangy tibiguana for 10 fucking days, my friends.
That's
It has
not a
been
terrible
the
problem.
most- No, that is probably also why I've been fucking happy this week with my shit going
Man.
away. Because you walk in the house, it's like,
I tell you what,
it
you're
smells
in
like
for
tangy tibiguana in this
you're in
motherfucker.
for a wonderful anxiety relief treat with that one.
Oh, it is fantastic stuff. My
No, buddy.
tangy, I just measured this morning, is at 40 inches right now above the earth box. And she
Hold
was
on.
growing 3 inches a night, and then just slowed down to where she's now at 1 inch a night. It is,
Dude.
she's wonderful.
She's
But I'm very
pretty,
excited
too.
because I also am growing tangy wedding in the other tent, which is glorious as well. So I have 2 very large tangies that are just scratching all of my itch right now, because it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Let's get
Yeah,
into
man.
shout outs, man. Let's end this.
Well, no, first I have to ask a goddamn
Oh, yeah,
question.
the
You
question.
savage motherfucker. Let's see. I got one.
Okay, I got a
Well,
question.
no.
If not, so
You can ask a question, but I got the fucking
Go
question.
for
It's a tradition around here.
go
motherfucker.
for it, dude.
All right. I'm going to throw a fairly easy one out there, because you can throw, I'll give you a couple answers, but what childhood comedy do you remember really loving? Like, what comedy in your childhood do you remember really loving? I will go with Johnny because he's excited.
So it was an HBO special. It was a stand-up comedy, and his name was I forget his fucking name, Bob. Anyways, man, I wish I could remember the name. I found a fucking DVD. I was young, and it was a stand-up comedy. The dude was like, he was doing different characters on stage. He would, like, he had a Chinese character, and then he had a young character who would like wipe his ass and got shit all over his hand. And then he was like yelling and he was like playing a black lady who was like the landlord. It was fucking hilarious, man. It was HBO back in the fucking day. And I cannot
Sounds
remember
very
the name of it.
politically correct.
But I remember fucking watching it with my dad all the fucking time. Like, he had recorded it on VHS and we watched it so many fucking times that it was like just one of those nostalgic fucking movies or comedies or whatever it is you watch with your fucking family. Well, it went away. Like you can't find VHS anywhere anymore. And this was a long time ago. So fucking, I think like 10 years ago, I found the dude online and found like a DVD he was still selling of that fucking HBO special. And I bought it, and I was like my dad's Christmas present that year. That's fucking, goddamn. I wish I could remember the name. It
How
was so
fucking
funny.
cool. If you remember before we put this out Sunday, we'll include it. Unlikely actually, but we'll try. Stoney.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting that you say HBO, because that's totally generational, like, because that was the edgy comedy. That was before Comedy Central. That's where late nights were happening. But
It was like the Netflix for comedians.
yeah.
Mhm. When you got an
well, it
HBO
was-
special, it was
yeah,
your
I mean,
Netflix special.
Yeah, they were pioneering the hour-long episode or the hour-long sets, and big, huge name comics. It took forever just to get to that spot, but generationally, some people remember this.
Bob Nelson, Nelson Schmelson.
Okay, there you go, dude. You remembered it.
That was the name of it. Bob Nelson, Nelson Schmelson. Because I remember him saying something about him being in school, and the fucking school teacher was like, "That was funny. Where are you going to go with that one, Mr. Nelson? When you grow up, where are you going to go with that one? I don't know. HBO." That's sorry. Continue.
Gallagher.
Fuck yeah, Gallagher.
Fuck yeah, Gallagher. Everyone always remembers Gallagher for the smashing shit at the end, which was absolutely fucking cool. I absolutely loved it. But if you listen to his comedy, he was really fucking sharp. He was an incredible comic. I think he was really, really talented for what he did. Everyone remembers him for smashing the melons and that sort of shit at the end of it and being a little cartoonish. But
his specials were great.
Yeah, his specials were great. Like the first 40 minutes of it were pretty edgy comedy, but were right on the edge of clean. But really witty and really sharp. And he always had like really cool sets. And then he would turn into like he would get to like a spot, and he was a master of he was like came from that George Carlin era where they were orators and storytellers to it, and there was so much pacing and so much timing that happened, and callbacks and tags, and it was so subtle, and he would just have this long story, and he would start to tie it up, and then it would be like, oh, should we grab my mallet? And then everyone remembers Gallagher from like smashing fucking watermelons and all, but it was like, man, it was
dad went and seen him. I remember my dad coming back saying he did get hit with fucking watermelon.
It's so cool. Fun. I loved Gallagher.
That's a good one. Howling.
It's just kind of funny. I was going to say Dennis Leary, and just what Stoney was just describing reminded me a lot about him. It wasn't like these one-liners. It was a story that he was telling with a lot of colorful language and a lot of energy, and the No Cure for Cancer. So it's not HBO, it's Showtime it came out on. So he wasn't an HBO guy, but that is like my first, I think that might be my first stand-up comedian I remember growing up, is watching Dennis Leary. Yeah.
That is awesome.
What about you, Padre?
Well, before I answer, I asked what your favorite comedy movie was from your childhood, and we somehow got stuck on stand-up comedians.
I thought you
so
said comedian.
I'm gonna go.
I had a movie.
What was your movie?
It was the most odd memory. It's Brewster's Millions.
That's a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
See,
I remember watching it.
You ass.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I'll answer both of my question and what became of the question.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, was Rodney Dangerfield had an animated movie where he was a dog, and I believe it's called Harvey Dangerfield. I can't remember, but it was a kids movie about Rodney Dangerfield as a dog down on his luck who goes through all kinds of shit. It's a wild movie. I think it was on YouTube for free at one time. I recommend watching it. It is crazy. And Rodney Dangerfield, great comedian. But since we'll go all time, like I'll finish on Norm is my favorite stand-up comedian of all time.
Norm
McDonald. Norm McDonald.
Oh, Norm McDonald. Yeah.
Okay. The only Norm, my friend. That is everybody. Does anyone have anything they would like to shout out? Stoney.
Night Owl Grow Together. keep your eyes peeled. We've still got 2 more giveaways to go. And we're going all the way until 420 is kind of the endish of it. So I've been missing a bunch of people's flowers getting towards the end. So keep your eyes peeled out. But that's my big shout out.
Hell yeah. Howling. Do you have anything you'd like to shout out?
No. I just want to encourage everyone to submit those photos. We're in the fun period now where everything gets real colorful and beautiful. So better be sharing those night owl pictures.
Please do not hold out. We need to see beautiful plants. Unfortunately, we don't grow them ourselves. Johnny, do you have any?
Shout out to generators, man. Get yourself one.
There you go. As usual, I ain't got shit. Thank you for listening, my friends.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Later, amigos.
Thanks for digging what we do.